Welcome to Stay Home, Stay Focused. I'm Jack Moline. I'm president of Interfaith Alliance. My special guest today is the congressman from the 6th District of Michigan, Fred Upton. Fred, I'm very glad you're here today. And I want to start by asking you what I ask each of my guests. How are you doing?
Well, we're surviving. It's a different life. This is day 51 that I've been, I don't want to say trapped, but I'm back in Michigan. I've been upgraded. I've been working out of my kitchen. Now that it's allegedly getting warmer, it didn't snow this morning, though it was 30 degrees. I'm now on the side porch, which is relatively unheated, but I've been doing a lot of work out here, a lot of conference calls. We've all learned how to maneuver with Zoom, talking to a lot of my colleagues, and really helping our constituents that are in a tough time out. I knew our first death in my home county pretty well. His picture's been on my desk for a lot of years as a Vietnam War vet.
Wow.
But we're all hands on deck. Everybody's working out of their homes, trying to do the best that we can to help the 700,000 people that I represent.
I generally at this point ask my guests how they're staying focused on something other than their own hygiene and the safety of their loved ones. But things never slowed down for you, did they?
Well, they really don't. I mean, I'm feet on the floor by 6 or 6:30 making coffee, and I'm on the phone on the Zoom tonight. I think I finish at 8 o'clock.
Wow.
With the schedule that's ready. It could well be a number of calls after that turn out, but our delegation has been working together. We've been working with our governor, a whole variety of things, our leadership. Everyone's also on a different time zone. I'm at least lucky that I'm on the same time zone as Michigan is, as DC. So, but for the other folks, you'll get on and someone will say good morning, and no, it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So we're all, we're all, figuring this thing out, doing the best
Right.
that we can.
Right. So I probably have 100 political questions I can ask you, but I have two other kinds of questions first. I don't know how many folks know that you're part of the family that is involved in the Whirlpool Corporation. And Whirlpool is contributing significantly to the efforts to control the coronavirus. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Well, they always have. And for everyone for maybe folks that don't know, my family helped start Whirlpool a little more than 100 years ago. My dad was a senior vice president. He was in charge of service. So I've learned a lot from him in terms of taking care of constituent needs. Maybe if we have enough time, I'll tell you a great ad that he did a lot of years ago. But Whirlpool was headquartered here in my hometown, St. Joe, Benton Harbor. And they've been wonderful community partners in every which way that you could imagine. And early on, they don't have any manufacturing left really in Michigan anymore. It's all corporate. It's the engineering. I mean, they've got probably more people than they've ever had before, but their manufacturing really is centered in Ohio, Indiana, and Oklahoma in terms of domestic. But they step up. They called me one morning at 6:30. Yep, I was already up. Coffee was already made, having breakfast, and they called. They were wanting to send hundreds of thousands of PPE, that's personal protection equipment, here to the U.S., not only for their employees, but more importantly for the healthcare providers, the local hospital, the sheriff department, the nursing homes, all at no cost to them. They've got operations in China. So they chartered a big jet, and they brought hundreds of thousands of masks, gowns, gloves, etc. To the U.S. I helped. They reached out to me because I helped them with customs. It was lickety split, right on through. And it's actually been my only formal event that I've done outside of my house the last 50 days, with the exception of going back and forth to Washington for the 2 days that we voted. But they provided 92 pallets,
Wow.
taller than me, of gloves and masks to the local hospital for free, just to make sure that they were safe. And that's something that they've done all their days, looking out, but they were helping their employees, and they made sure that the sheriff department had it, and others, those that really were working and wanted their personnel to be safe too.
You know, these stories of corporate responsibility and outreach are too often lost in the reportage of loan applications and those kinds of things. So I'm really appreciative that you're able to share that with us, especially since it was proactive, which is
Yeah,
great.
we're glad to get it done. I mean, I worked with the White House directly to make sure that it was not going to be diverted someplace, and they would get it here. They looked at a lot of different options, and it all worked. But I spent a little time with Jim Hackett. I'm a Michigan Wolverine. Of course, Jim Hackett was the athletic director after he was chairman of Steelcase, a major furniture company in West Michigan. Now, of course, he's CEO of Ford, and they've done a lot too. So many companies have done a lot. I mean, they're actually making respirators now, ventilators, I should say. But a lot of our companies have stepped up and changed what normally was their production and making masks, a whole number of different things to try and help their communities in their states.
That's great. So the second question I want to ask you, of course, is about baseball. You and I are big Cub fans. Before we went live here, we were talking about the great season the Cubs are having and how well Sammy Sosa's doing. You think we're going to get baseball back this year or ever?
I hope we do. And we've always bonded. You gave me a pair of Cub socks, in fact, for my birthday, or something a little bit earlier this year. Maybe it was Christmas.
Yeah, it was Cub physical socks, not Cub White Sox.
That's right.
Let's just make that clear.
Although the owner of the White Sox is a supporter of mine, so I got to be careful.
Okay.
But yeah, it's sort of interesting right now. And I joke, I turn on the Cubs game. We have a Cubs channel here in Michigan. We're only an hour and a half across to Lake Michigan. And so a lot of stories about Cubs, but they're winning every night now on the Cubs channel. Every night they're winning. Sammy Sosa had 6 home runs in the last 2 days. They won two Central Division championships against the Cardinals. They had a wonderful win against Milwaukee the other night. And the games end precisely at 11 o'clock. Just in time for the nighttime news.
What more can you ask for?
You can't ask for anything more. So I said, I'm not going to shave while they keep winning, so maybe I'll keep this thing till the end of July. But to answer your question, I hope that they can. I'm hoping that, I agree with the president. I wish we could have opened up at Easter, but of course that was not going to happen. The virus really dictates this. And I do have a little bit of inside information in that I have a relative that won the Cy Young Award last year for the Houston Astros, so it's always going to be a family issue what happened. But I'm hoping that they might start. They're talking about starting maybe in July, probably empty stadiums, just family. Maybe I can get in. And then with an abbreviated schedule, combine things, 3 divisions of 10 teams each. We're talking about what the divisions are going to look like. I think they might be able to start and see how they finish, particularly as we are making some advancements, not only opening up the rest of the country. Michigan is starting to open up a little bit with certain professions. We're making progress. I know we are making progress on a vaccine. We've got a number of companies that maybe a few years ago would not have embarked on the actual production of a vaccine before it's been viewed as safe and sound by the FDA. But they think that they're going to get there, and with the emergency use authorization that the president's able to use, if they really show some progress, maybe this thing will be available by early fall. We'll see just a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks. So, as a guy that watches TV, primarily just news and sports, oh man, my days have been shortened up a lot. We need sports. Especially my Wolverines. I don't know if we can beat Ohio State this year, but I sure want to try.
Well, if things are the way they are now, I'm sure that the Michigan stations will find a way for the Wolverines to beat Ohio State some way or another.
No. See, we have the Big Ten channel, Big Ten network, so they're balanced. So they put the games up killed. So I got to stick with my Cubs maybe 12 months a year.
There you go. Fred, the 6th district in Michigan is a diverse district. What are you hearing about the various segments of your constituency? How are they holding up through all of this?
Well, it's tough for everybody. Our district is diverse in a lot of different ways, not only with ethnicity, but rural, urban, large, small companies. Um, I got one county that doesn't have a 4-lane road, heavy agriculture.
You really are a microcosm of America there.
Yeah, we really are. A lot of good, hardworking people that are there. Some really well-run educational institutions. State, we have Western Michigan University. Some big companies that are headquartered here. Stryker, Pfizer was once Upton, which started in Kalamazoo. Obviously, Whirlpool that's here, a big Thermo Fisher plant. I mean, a lot of auto parts. We don't have any auto assembly jobs; those are long gone. But American Axle has their largest plant in Three Rivers, so we've got tool and die industry is strong. But it's hard. It's most people, as I have witnessed, they're practicing social distancing. I was one that urged the governor to insist that customers going into retail stores really have a mask, and mine's not too far away. Surprised that they can. I'm going to be going to the post office as soon as we finish this. I'm going to put a mask on. And yesterday, someone recognized me. I had a hat on. I had a mask. I didn't have my sunglasses on because it was raining, but they knew it was me. I don't know how. But we're practicing that. When people walk down the street, they're walking, and I live in a neighborhood that, we're walking 6, 8, 10 feet apart. But it's hard. We had a lot of I have 2 district offices. We closed them back physically in March. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got an iPad. We're able to, phone calls are automatically ringing to my district staff. We're able to help a lot of people. The checks, the stimulus checks that came out, number of people that maybe they filed electronically, but they moved or they changed banks and they didn't get the checks. And man, they were awfully important when they first started coming out earlier last month. We did a lot of hand-holding on PPP, businesses wanting to survive. It was a great program envisioned, but there were a lot of glitches. So we worked with not only our credit unions, but our community banks. We have some of the big guys, the Chases and the Bank of America, but they're not the real prevalent banks in Southwest Michigan. So we did a lot of hand-holding there, trying to help people. Reached out. Our delegation's actually fairly tight. Republicans and Democrats. We're doing a lot of calls, a lot of communication with each other. We had a terrible shooting this last week in Flint. Right. I read about it, about someone who, security guard at Dollar General, asked someone to put on a mask. Apparently they refused. I don't know the whole story, but some of those family members came back and killed him, shot him in the head. He left 8 kids and a widow. I reached out to Congressman Kildee, who represents Flint, but this was really before the news broke. I heard about it. Put that on my kitchen table. We do a kitchen table report every day, upton.house.gov, so you can actually read about my daily activities. Included the GoFundMe page for that family that night earlier this week. So it's just hard. It's been cold. I joked a little bit earlier. I talked to one of my Florida colleagues this morning, and he was bragging about the beaches open in Florida. And I said, well, yeah, ours are open too. We don't have sharks, but it's about 34 degrees in the water if you want to come up. So we don't really have the issue that they do. So you have to keep your sense of humor a little bit.
Right.
But let's face it, it's hard. It's hard. We want to get through this. It's going to require that folks get tested, that we really push hard on a vaccine and the therapeutics. And actually, legislation that I helped shepherd a number of years ago was the last big bill that President Obama signed into law, allowed for a whole change in the way that clinical trials are conducted. It used to be that they were totally siloed, couldn't communicate with anybody else, whether it be educational institutions or pharmaceutical companies. It's now changed based on what we did. A lot of communication. It's one of the reasons that at the end of the day, we're going to have a vaccine maybe a year or 2 earlier than we otherwise would have because of that communication that's going on. That was a big bill that Diana DeGette and Diana's a Democrat from Colorado. She came to my district. She kicked the tires in Kalamazoo and Stryker and Pfizer. I kicked the tires. I went out to Denver as well. Did a lot of stuff, and she and I helped get it through literally on the last day Congress was in session back in 2016.
Well, thanks for that, because you really had no way of knowing how important that would be at this point. So that's terrific. You know, Fred, one of the blessings for the constituency, but hazards for the members of Congress, is that every 2 years there's a referendum on your service. This is going to be a very unusual campaign ahead of you. Have you given a thought as to how you're going to be able to address the upcoming elections? On the national level, I'm sure there will be all sorts of ways to reach out to people, but there's a lot of door-to-door and gripping and grinning for a member of Congress. What are you going to do?
That's not going to happen this year. I sort of made the joke before that, you know, you may not like the robocalls, and now we come to your house. It's going to be a lot different this year. You know, our filing deadline is this week. We filed. It's, you know, all of our parades are being canceled. We have what we celebrate the largest Flag Day parade in America in a little town called Three Oaks. It has one traffic light. Probably because no one else has a Flag Day parade, but it's the largest. It's big. I always walk it. It's off. We have a huge art fair. It's probably one of the best in the nation. It's been acclaimed. It's right on the bluff of St. Joe, overlooking Lake Michigan. A beautiful setting, very juried thing. I mean, they get, I don't know, tens of thousands of people that come by. It's off. That's usually the second week in July. We're asking questions today about our county fairs. I mean, I love fairs. We have probably one of the best ones here. They haven't decided yet whether it's going to be on in August. Your fireworks festivals, I mean, a lot of them already have been canceled for the 4th of July. Community events, we have a beautiful beach just north of me, Gene Clark Park Beach in Benton Harbor. They've already announced all their activities for the summer over. Yeah, I think individual bathers can go down there, but you know, the festivals, the family reunions, all those things, they're off.
Well, what will you do instead?
It's going to be a lot different. And you know, right now nobody's driving, so yard signs don't work either. I'm walking to the post office. It's about a half a mile away. It's a little walk that my wife and I do when it's not raining in the day. But you know, it's going to be wholly different.
You're going to have to hire those crop dusters to pull a sign behind them so that people can see it.
We've done that before. We've done that before.
Let me ask you one more question before we begin to wind down here. You come from a family of faith. Your wife is herself a minister. How does this pandemic speak to your faith, or how does your faith speak to the pandemic?
Well, you know, we're going to get through this. One of the things that I do in writing this kitchen table report every night is I look for some inspiration just to give people hope. So last night I used a Dalai Lama quote. I used a quote early on from Thomas Merton. And actually I heard, I didn't know this at the time, but I know our Catholic bishop pretty well. He's in Kalamazoo, Bishop Bradley. I didn't know that he was on my website. We have people that are on, but he sent me an email saying, I love that. Is one of my favorite quotes from Thomas Merton. And thanks for bringing it to my attention. You know, he remembered it when he was going through the priesthood way back when. So I try to include a little inspiration, whether people are of faith or not. There's obviously a little twist towards that degree, but you know, and I've been watching. Amy is in charge of adult education at their Presbyterian Church there in Alexandria. And I'm watching. You know, they're doing a lot of video conferencing. We've watched the services Sunday mornings. Can actually go get a hot cup of coffee while that's going on during maybe an anthem or something like that. But the daily, you know, they're doing a lot of work, a lot of outreach, and you know, she's mastered Zoom probably better than me, at least at the beginning. So she's involved with a lot of different daily events that are going to. So it's, it's part of the process. And I guess if there was only one silver lining, it's we've been together more. I have to commute back and forth, Michigan to Washington, and we've probably been more together the last 50 days than we have been in our 30-some years of marriage.
Well, that's a blessing, I
With
expect.
very a bad word. And she doesn't make, she's not forced to watch the Cubs anymore. Well, she is sort of. She knows what the Cubs is, so she's not on pins and needles like maybe she would normally be.
Congressman Fred Upton, I am so grateful to you for being with us today. And you already mentioned your website, but say it again in case people want to check
Yes,
into
upton.house.gov,
Great.
UPTON, upton.house.gov. And then I do this little column Monday to Friday, kitchen table report with the date that's there in terms of what I'm up to, and provide a lot of links where people actually can track some information that's really not slanted. It's not like a Fox or an MSNBC. I mean, it's the straight scoop of things that I hear, not only as a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, but today we've got a Zoom call. I'm in the Problem Solvers Caucus, a bipartisan group of 50 members. We have a Zoom call with Speaker Pelosi. She's starting to work on a phase 4 bill. I'm going to be in the queue for a question. I'm going to ask her about the liability issue, and her answer will be in my report tonight.
Good to know. Thank you for being with us. And to those of you who are viewing or listening at home, stay home and stay focused.
And stay safe. And wear your mask, please.